This podcast is for informational purposes only and should not be considered legal, health, tax, professional advice. We are not responsible for any losses, damages, or liabilities that may arise from the use of this podcast. This podcast is not intended to replace professional medical advice. The views expressed in this podcast may not be those of the host or the management. This podcast may contain adult theme, so parental discretion is advised. So today, we have Franchell. No, she's someone whose presence radiates grace, wisdom, and unwavering faith. She's a minister, a coach, speaker, and spiritual guide who helps women, especially mothers, find peace and strength through God's love. Her journey through grief and grace has become a beacon for others seeking healing and divine direction. Get ready for a conversation filled with wisdom, warmth, and unwavering hope. So welcome, Franchell.
Well,
Yeah,
thank you. Thank you for
yes,
having me.
yes. So, sometimes situations cause us to go into different directions. All of us are born out, according to what my belief is that all of us are born with a destiny. There's something that we're supposed to fulfill. And I've been doing this podcast, and I always find that person's destiny seem to come from or seem to be pronounced when there's some grief or some heartbreak or something, So I know your story one that carries both deep scars, and sorrow, but at the same time strength. So what first drew you into your faith based on coaching, and how did your personal journey shape shape that calling?
Yes. So for me, my faith and I guess relationship with God started at a very young age. My father died when I was 2.5 years old, and so I had no memories or connections that I could remember of my relationship with him. Even though during my childhood I always had a strong connection to God, I loved going to church. At a very young age, I was very active in church. At a young age. I would, even there were some Sundays I could recall my mom would not be feeling up to go to church, and I would call my aunt, who was a minister on staff at church, to come and pick me up because I just yearned to be in his presence. I just yearned to be there around the community, around the fellowship. It warmed my heart. It softened my heart. It helped me to learn how to deal with my emotions, on how to kind of navigate life and understand grief. At that time I didn't know. No one really talked about what was going on. No one really asked me questions on how I felt. And so me being in his presence, me being at church, really helped me to just be at peace during my childhood and going into teenage and adulthood. And then moving forward, my mother got sick once I had gotten older, had a gotten married, had my first child, and she passed away about, it'll be 4 years in a couple of days. And so here I was again dealing with grief. Here I was learning again how to navigate this. I had learned in some areas on what not to do from childhood, and so I started to put those things into motions. But to have that such a strong relationship with my mom, because it was really me and her growing up, and for her to be gone, and I had just had my third child, and I was he was 7 months old, and so dealing with postpartum and things. And so it was a struggle. It really was a struggle. But I again turned to God. I again surrendered and asked him for strength, because I did not see how I was going to be able to move forward after the loss of having her, after the loss of her, and then still having to navigate being a mom to now then 3 kids. And so it really was a challenge. It really was difficult. And I know it was nobody but God and his strength and his covering over me that I'm here today to even tell you about it.
Wow, that's deep. We speak about vulnerability, about navigating motherhood after the loss of your own mother. That's if many women have a lot, they go through it in silence. So what did that season of loss teach you about the kind of mother you wanted to become?
One of the things, like you said, at first I didn't want to say anything to really anybody. When you're dealing with grief, and once you've buried your loved one and it's then go back to normal. Everyone else goes back to normal. Everyone goes back with their routine. They're not checking on you as much. They're back in their own lives that they are accustomed to. And so I had to learn how to recognize that and then go seek the help that I needed, so I could be a functioning mother to the children that God had blessed me with. I had to remember some of the things that I saw my own mom do after my dad passed. She was still active with me. She was there. She was engaging. She made sure that all of my needs were met. And so she kept going. She pressed through the grief, the hurt and the pain. And so that encouraged me to keep going. But I also had to seek some professional help. I had to go to therapy. And that was my first time going to therapy at all after my mom passed, which, if I'm being honest, I should have went to therapy when my dad passed. And so I learned that I needed to get that support that I needed and not just sit in isolation and try to navigate things on my own. I learned from my childhood that wasn't going to work this time. And so I went out and seek the help that I needed. I eventually got vulnerable with my husband and told him how I was feeling. I got vulnerable and told close friends that did check on me very frequently to let them know, truly tell them how I was feeling.
Right. I'm glad that you mentioned that you got professional help because a lot of Christian women, they will fast, they will pray, and do all these things. Yes, fasting and prayer is good, but at the same time, God gives other people gifts that they can use to help us.
Yes.
So I'm really glad that you mentioned that.
Yes. I know I needed that. And for me, being a Christian woman, I wanted to seek and got a Christian counselor. I wanted to have someone who understood and would understand my beliefs. And so I encourage any Christian woman, any female, that's seeking therapy, find the right therapist for you. And I've had some friends, they didn't feel this one was a good fit. I still encourage them to go to God, seek his guidance to get the right fit, to find the right therapist that will support them.
Yes, yes. You have to have a very good relationship because like when you have a lawyer is a person that's going to go out there and bat for you. So if you don't have confidence in your lawyer, it don't make
Yeah.
sense.
Yeah, it's a trust
Yeah, yeah,
relationship for
yeah, yeah.
sure.
Yes, that is so true. That is so true. And I always say, make the analogy to a doctor also. When you have some of your Christian friends, some of your friends who normally used to be, very active in the church, and they said that, people have church hurt. Things happen at church, and people just, I don't want to be bothered with these people. They're hypocrites. They're blah blah blah, and they don't want to go back to church. I always tell them, guess what? If you have a serious illness and you go to a particular doctor and that you don't like that doctor for whatever reason, are you going to let the curable disease kill you? Would you do that? No. You find another doctor, right? So
You
same
do.
to the church. You find another church where you feel you fit. You fit in. And I always
Yeah.
tell them that too. Yeah. So, so how do you honor your mother's legacy in the way you show up for your children today? Your legacy of how your mother, when she was going through her journey of grief and all that, how you do you honor her legacy?
I honor her legacy by being engaged with my kids. Because there is a lot of times when I first started, I wanted to just be in isolation, but I remembered so many times my mom would come and we would watch a show together, or our favorite thing was to go shopping. And so
Yeah,
we would go shopping, and
I will go
she,
with your mom then. 'Cause I like
yes.
shopping.
Me too. And so she would just be present. She would be engaged. She would be there for me. She would make sure any opportunities that she gave me exposure to things. Even if it was things that she didn't really care for, but she knew that I was interested in, she
Right.
made sure that those opportunities were there for me. And so I make sure, because I have four kids, I try to give them all their each individual time. I was an only child, so my mom didn't really teach me how to juggle multiple kids. But I'm learning with God's strength how to give each child their own individual time. I'm always praying for them every night. My middle daughter, she's always like, Mommy, I want Jesus. I want Jesus before she goes to bed, because she knows that's our thing we do every night. So I'm instilling in them the things that they need, instilling positivity. I'm giving them affirmations. I'm giving them the things that my mom gave me, and some of the things, honestly, that she didn't give me as well that I did need. I'm pouring those things into them now.
Yeah, that's so beautiful. Are there any scriptures or spiritual practices that become lifetime for you in those tender moments when you experience?
Yes. So one of the scriptures that God always takes me to is Luke 5 and 13. And that's when the gentleman who had leprosy, he was going to Jesus, and Jesus said, I am willing. And every time that I'm going through a difficult situation, I'm being attacked in my mind with fear or doubt or grief is starting to consume me, he always reminds me that he's willing. He's willing to give me peace. He's willing to give me joy. He's willing to give me comfort during the storm. He's willing to just be there and walk with me every step of the way. And so that's one of the scriptures that he's really impacted in me. But the new one that he's given me a lot lately is Matthew's 5 and 16. And it says, let your light shine before others, that they may see your good deeds and glorify your Father in heaven. He's been reminding me in this season to shine my light no matter where I'm going, no matter where I am, to make sure that I am being used as his vessel to pour out to others who need it. And so he's really been encouraging me a lot lately to continue to shine my light.
Yeah, you know, in the workplace, it's sort of hard to shine a light because there, certain things they can't talk about, especially when it comes to religion and all of that. But
Hmm.
I always tell people, you need to make yourself different as a vessel of Christ. You need to make yourself different. So although you're not saying that you're a Christian, but when they see the things that you do, they know you are a Christian. So,
Yes,
you have to be the walking, talking, living Bible by just by the examples that you do. You know,
yes,
you don't clock in, you don't put a time down that you know is incorrect when you clock in. If it's incorrect, you go to your boss and you say, guess what? It wasn't working. Can you correct it manually? And little things like that. And I tell you, when you do little things like that, people always they don't question anything about you anymore because you show that you have integrity,
yes.
things like that set you apart. Yeah. So you're not just a mother, but you are a minister, a coach. So how do you juggle all of these things, to make sure you still can walk in your purpose that God has given to you? So how do you juggle all of that?
That's a great question. I think for me, I will go to God frequently, very frequently, to focus in on what I need to be doing and in this season, because there's a lot of things, and like you talked about earlier, gifts. There's a lot of things that God likes to download in me, a lot of ideas, a lot of business ventures, a lot of things just to come. He will show me visions and just pour it into me. And so at first I would just like, oh, we're doing this now, and oh, we're doing this now, and I would just become so very overwhelmed, and I would shut down. But I've gotten to a place now, more mature in my relationship with him, that I will write these things down. I will go to him. Okay, God, you gave me this idea. Is this what I'm supposed to be doing at this time? Just because
Mhm.
he's showing you a lot of different things and he's giving you a lot of different gifts doesn't mean he wants you to do everything at one time. There are
Right.
some things he does want you to do at the same time, some things at a slower pace. And so I just try to just continue to check in with him am I supposed to be doing this right now? Is this a right now thing? Is this a for later thing? And so that has really been my saving grace there to just continue to check in with him to make sure I'm doing the right thing at the right time.
So what about the children? Because you have yes, you have that, but what about the children? Your wife, I mean, your
Yeah.
minister. So how do you juggle those parts of your life? Because people, I know that women who's trying to, fulfill their destiny that they have been appointed, that some of them have the same challenges with children. You have to show up for whatever they're playing at school,
Hmm.
meetings and active extracurricular activities that so how do you juggle all of that?
That is a great question as well. I like to be very open and transparent with my husband and my oldest daughter. She's 10, going on 11, going on
Okay.
15
Mhm.
sometimes. To be transparent with them and to let them know what I have going on. I try not to overbook, double book, triple book myself. I like to make sure that I have adequate family time that's in place because I am, like you said, I have a full-time job as well.
Right.
So I have to make sure that those priorities and things are being met, expectations are being met as well. And so I try to be transparent, let my husband know what's going on. I let him know when God tells me certain things, this is what's coming, to let him know, to see how he feels, for us to pray together about how we're going to navigate these things. Like I said, we have 4 kids and everybody needs something different.
Mhm.
Because they're all at different stages right now. And so we were just talking earlier today about writing down the calendar for the month, making sure everything is laid out of who needs to be here, who has this
Right.
doctor and who has this, and just having open communication when I'm feeling overwhelmed to let him know so balls don't get dropped and or
Mhm,
vice
mhm,
versa.
mhm, mhm. Okay, that's awesome. So what do you say to a woman who feels called to serve, but she's overwhelmed herself by the weight of parenting?
Mm. Um, I would say that first, do not look at parenting and doing what God has called you to do. Do not look at your children as a burden. They're a gift from God.
All right, that's good. I love that. I love that. That's
Because
good.
sometimes parents can feel, if I'm, being honest, that kids are a burden. But they're not. They're a gift from God. And
Mhm,
so to like I said earlier, go to God, tell him how you feel. I think a lot of times people feel they can't tell God how they feel. They can't tell God that they're angry, that they're feeling overwhelmed, but you can. He can handle it. He can handle you being vulnerable with him and telling him exactly how you feel and asking him to give you the strategy to
mhm,
do the things that he's telling you to do. It's going to require routines. It's going to require discipline. It's going to require you not doing some of the things you used to do if you're truly trying to be obedient to God, to do the things that he's calling. He might be calling you to tell you get up at 5 a.m. to spend time with him, to get things done for your purpose, and then start your day getting the kids ready and things like that. And so it's really going to be a sacrifice, but if you understand, once you get to understand that your life is not your own, you were put here with a purpose to serve his purpose. It makes life a whole lot easier when you surrender it to him and follow his directions.
So one of the questions that I always hear women saying that the the feeling at both the the feeling the feeling with the children out of control, and the feeling in the ministry. They don't, they're struggling in ministry. They're not feeling fulfilled in the ministry, and at the same time, the home life is in disarray. What do you say to those people who are
Mm-hmm.
actually failing, totally failing?
Totally feeling. Hmm. I think the first thing, honestly, to do is to step back and honestly fast. Kind of block out the noise, block out what you think you see,
Kill,
because
kill,
what
kill
you
the
think,
flesh, kill the flesh. Yeah.
kill the flesh, because what you could be seeing
Hmm.
might not be that. It could be the attack of the enemy
Right.
because you're getting so close to what you're doing. A
Hmm.
lot of times when things are chaotic, things are going crazy, it's because you're so close to what God has promised you. You're so close to that breakthrough, and
Mhm.
the enemy is going to use every which way that he's going to
Mhm.
get to you because he knows your weaknesses better than you do sometimes. He's going to use those things to attack you, to
Mhm.
make you to delay the blessing that God has for you. And so taking a step back, killing the flesh, really going in, spending that time with God, consecrated time with Him to really hear what you're supposed to be doing.
Mhm. Mhm. That's good. I love that. That's beautiful. So let's talk about healing, not just surviving, but thriving. How do you personally define healing in the context of family and faith?
Mm. Um, I think for me with family with healing, it was it was a process. So I'm originally from South Carolina, Charleston, South Carolina, but I live in Columbus, Ohio.
Mhm.
And so every time I go home, um I still feel that there's still a little bit more healing that I need to do from the lost past of my mom, but I also try to recognize the blessing that, okay, I can speak to this family member and not cry, or I can go into my childhood home. I can step in the door and not, run away from it. I can go visit her gravesite and not be, totally heartbroken anymore. And so that's some of the times that I can feel with my faith that I'm healing in that area. Now with family, I continue to just pray for my family members. I continue to ask for forgiveness. I continue to ask God to not harden my heart. Like, I continue to ask God for just peace for situations that might have happened that used to anger me. And when I realize it's not angering me and like I'm not getting angry anymore, that's how I know that I'm actually healing. And so I just continue. I feel like the healing process for both, it's never ending. Like you're always going to be working at it continuously, but you have to put forth that effort to do it.
Mhm. Because the whole thing also is that we have to forgive because that is part of the commandment. We have to forgive people because the expectation is for God to forgive us of our sins, our trespasses, and all the things that we have done against Him. So,
Yes.
in order for Him to do that, we have to forgive people too.
Yes. And that was one of the main things God brought up to me. I want to say it was maybe last year. I was in the process of washing dishes because God likes to talk to me when I'm in the kitchen. The kitchen ministry, I like to call it. The kitchen ministry because I'm always in there. And I was still at that time struggling with grief. And at that moment, that's when the Holy Spirit spoke to me. No. The Holy Spirit spoke to me and let me know that the grief and things that I was trying to learn to navigate, that was some of the same things that my mom was still learning how to
Oh,
navigate
wow.
at that time. And so at that moment, it's like my eyes, the revelation came to me because I had never had it. And so then at that moment, I was able to forgive my mom for some of those times when she was sad, when she was in isolation, when she didn't really want to interact with me, and I didn't really understand why. And so I was able to finally understand, give my mother grace in that season because I didn't understand it, and to also forgive her because then I
Mhm.
could understand where she was coming from.
Do you look like your dad?
I do. I look like my dad. They said I looked just like him. He was tall and slender and brown skin like me. And my mom was like a short, little feisty, um, um, 5'1", little lady, and she did not take no stuff. And so maybe that played a part too, because
Yeah,
everyone
'cause
said, "Oh,
every time she see you, she see him.
she saw
She
him."
see
And
the face.
so,
Yeah.
and yeah, so yeah,
It's interesting sometimes,
it
how
is.
revelation can come.
Yes.
Yeah. So how important is community and sisterhood in the healing process for mothers of faith? How important the whole healing process with your community And I don't know,
Oh,
at the time in your situation, did you have a community behind you, your church community, or?
I had, well, I had a church from our previous location where we lived in North Carolina that would check on me very frequently. The first lady, some of the members from the small groups I was in, they would check on me, and a lot of my sisters, my friends that became
Mhm.
sisters, would check on me a lot as well. And so I did have a community that they wouldn't let me go even if I wanted to.
Okay, that's
During
beautiful.
that time that I
Yeah.
really needed it.
Mm.
And it was vital. It was vital. They would just know when to text at the right time. They would be like, just the Holy Spirit told me to check on you, just to pray for you, just to check and see how you're doing. And so that really helped me because the enemy would like you to deal with those things alone, make you feel you're alone, that
Mhm.
nobody understands. And so I just thank God that the community that I had, they checked on me right when I needed it at the right times. It's vital to just go through motherhood, to deal with grief or any situation. Having a community is key. God did not put us here to be by ourselves. He wanted
Yes.
us to fellowship and be with one another.
So as I close, I want to talk about reflect on legacy. Uh, what we leave behind in the hearts of our children and communities. What do you hope your children carry forward about faith, love, and resilience?
Yes. For me, I want my children to always remember to have the fear of God.
Mhm.
I want them to always remember to seek God in all things. I want them to remember and have the the faith and strength to know that they can go through anything with God's strength and help. And I want them to know that they can seek and always know it's important to have community. It's important to have a God-driven community. Um, and to really seek him for who is their village, who are they supposed to be connected to, and to listen to God when God tells them if there comes a time that they need to disconnect from people as well. So
Yes,
those.
that is very important, the disconnect. Because even when you think about um Lot, when Abram was told to go, he wasn't told to take Lot with him. He said to take a family.
Mm-hmm.
Lot was Abram's nephew, remember?
Mm-hmm.
Right. And a lot of stuff happened and stuff was delayed because Lot was there, you know. He wasn't really supposed to
Mm.
be part of it. So we must remember sometimes to leave the lots behind. How about that?
Yes, I like that. Yes, leave lots behind.
Leave
And
the,
it's hard for some people. It's hard for some people. They don't want to be alone. And I used to be like that. I was an only child, so I always wanted to have lots of friends. Wanted to
right.
have lots of friends because I was an only child. But as I'm getting older, I'm okay with being by myself.
Yeah, and sometimes the mission that God send you on, you have to be careful who you tell what God has told you.
Mm-hmm.
Just like Joseph. Joseph spoke, Joseph spoke, and it caused a lot of problems, although God had showed him the vision and he was all
Mm-hmm.
excited about it, but at the same time it created enemies with his
Mm-hmm.
brothers and you know the story of Joseph.
Yes. Yes.
But
Yes.
I love the story of Joseph because it's one that show you what the enemy meant for bad, God turned it around for good.
Yes.
I
He
love
always does. He
yes,
always does.
I love that. So and finally, if you wanted the listeners to take away one truth about what we spoke about today, what do you pray that would be? If you for the things that we spoke about today in the podcast, if what one takeaway you want a listener to take?
The one takeaway I want listeners to take is that God is with them.
Mm-hmm.
God is with them. God is with them through the storms. He's with them through the valleys. He's with them through the grief. He's with them through the death. He's with them through the pain. He's with them through the anger. He's with them through the fear and the doubt. So many times people feel that how could God do this? He's there. He's there with you. He's going to give you strength. He doesn't want you to feel alone. And so my prayer is that throughout any trial, throughout any challenge, tribulation that a person goes through, that they remember, despite how they feel, despite what it looks like, that God is with them.
Yes, yes, that is so true, especially in our grief, especially when you look at around you, people taking drugs, trying to kill themselves, people trying to commit suicide, and you have this person that is doing so much for the kingdom, and they're just taken away like that. So, we question is, we're human beings, so we're gonna question. But as you correctly say, we can ask God. But I know when I had a family member that was taken away from me suddenly, I asked God, and He said, "Guess what? I created the person. I just lent it, I just lent the person to you, but it didn't belong to you. It belonged to
Right.
me,
Yeah.
So
All the borrowed time.
yeah, yeah. All right. So how can our listeners get in touch with you?
Yes, so I am on all platforms. I'm on TikTok, Facebook, Instagram, and YouTube under Franchell Renee, and it's spelled Franchell, and Renee is spelled Ryna. I didn't
Oh,
name me people. It's
okay.
spelled Renee.
Okay. So, if you send that, and I can put it in the notes
Okay.
on Spotify, so people
Okay.
can see it if they want to get in touch with you. So thank you so much. Thank you for tuning in today. If Francel's story stirs something in your spirit, don't keep it to yourself. Share this episode, leave a review, and let someone else be blessed by her journey. Until next time, keep walking in purpose, keep healing, and keep the faith alive. Thank you.
Thank you.